Hi, I'm Dan Kimball with the Morgantown Area Chamber of Commerce, and we're pleased today to be hosting the 2015 candidates for City Council election here in Morgantown. We want to begin by asking you to remember to get out and vote. The election is in late April. We want your voice to be heard. But today, we want their voices to be heard. And so we've invited them to come in and share with us on some areas of economic development, community infrastructure, and the future of Morgantown. We welcome them. We're thankful that they've taken the time to be with us. We hope you enjoy it.
Okay, I want to thank the Chamber for having me come in today and answer these questions so people can have an idea of who I am, what I stand for, a little bit about where I've come from. My name is George Papandreas. I'm a candidate for City Council from First Ward. I am from Morgantown, which I do believe is important. Professionally, I manage commercial real estate located within the downtown district. This type of investment, I believe, in our town gives me a unique perspective that's a little bit different than everybody else that may be a candidate in this particular election. When the city makes a wise economic decision, the business community is usually about the first to feel it. Well, the same thing is going on when they make poor decisions. It doesn't take very many poor decisions before the economic base is eroded to the point where it's difficult for it to recover. We're now pretty much at that threshold, I feel. Over the past 15 months, the B&O taxes in Morgantown have steadily declined over $800,000. That represents tens of millions and almost, maybe in some cases, depending on the tax rate, hundreds of millions of lost sales to city businesses. These are the taxes that support many of the day-to-day operations of the city, and that money is lost. Now, maintaining a vibrant business climate, although requiring constant work, is way easier than building one that has dropped into a state of depression. But to maintain or grow an economy, one must understand how all the economic tools are used and how to build a solid foundation. Election time is a time to consider options and new directions for policies that are not proving effective and paying dividends for the community. I ask for your vote on April 28th to begin changing the downward spiral in Morgantown's economy.
Of the 8 objectives under the city's transportation policy, which 3 do you feel are most important and why? Which responsibilities under those objectives do you favor the most to implement?
The first one I chose was Objective 4 in the plan, which is to work with West Virginia University to manage university-related traffic. In much the same way that we would expect a responsible developer to address the additional stress put on systems within the city, I believe that we should expect the university to take a little bit more of the responsibility for the additional traffic load that they, or their projects, their students create. Storage parking for students that choose to live within walking distance of campus should be explored, as well as restrictions on cars possibly for first-year students living in student housing. A park and ride for both students as well as faculty not wishing to add to traffic problems would certainly be a viable option. A garage in the vicinity of the Coliseum would serve multiple purposes, pretty much the things that I just talked about, but also would pick up the additional load for the events at the Coliseum or at the CAC. That probably would not be a short-term fix because of the cost of it. The second objective that I chose was support changes in the roadway network to alleviate traffic congestion. There are a number of strategies that have been successfully used in other areas to deal with overloading, such as third lanes in the middle of the road that alternate direction depending on the time of day, ingoing and outgoing traffic, and especially adjusting the timing for traffic lights to allow for free movement whenever the movement starts happening, let a little bit more cars pass through. Both of these options, I feel, can be explored and tested with very little cost, because in some cases we already have that third lane, and it's not much of an effort really changing the timing and the lights. Bypass roads would be an ultimate goal, but probably not a short-term fix because of the cost. The third objective was Objective 8, to support improvements to transportation service and access to Hart Field. Although in its infancy, I do believe that this development is critical in the long-term economic vitality of the region. This development will be a benefit on all levels: tourism, business travel, development, military access, as well as the industrial park applications. I believe that Morgantown does need to explore an alternate to the present taxi system.
Of the 7 objectives under the city's community facilities and services policy, which 3 do you feel are most important and why? Which responsibilities under those objectives do you favor the most to implement?
As I took a look at those, objective number 1 came to mind first. That was to maintain high-quality utility services to meet the growing needs of the community. This is without a doubt one of the highest priorities. Sewage, water, and drainage infrastructure must be constantly maintained and updated in order to allow for the growth, safety, and health of the community. Fees need to be reasonable, but allow for proper maintenance. The second one I picked was Objective 6, which is continue to improve city services and community engagement. Without a strong focus on constantly improving services, the health and safety of the community, as well as the natural beauty and appeal of the area, are at risk. It's integral that we partner with our geographic neighbors in this respect. We all live here, and there are no borders. The next objective that I picked was Objective 5, which is provide appropriate social services and facilities to meet the changing needs of the community in concert with the city's 5-year consolidated plan, annual action plans, and annual performance reports. I believe that the city should monitor the agencies that provide social services to the extent that we're sure that needs are being met. However, I do believe that the city should stay pretty much out of their way. They're the experts. I think that we should give them guidance, give them assistance, but not try to do their jobs for them. I don't feel that the city should be in the social service business in any capacity other than with coordination. I do believe, however, that city codes and inspections should be mindful of barrier elimination to the extent practicable.
Of the 7 objectives under the city's economic development policy, which 3 do you feel are most important and why? Which responsibilities under those objectives do you favor the most to implement?
Well, the first one is objective number 1, which is promote investment in infrastructure. Responsible investment in infrastructure can't be overstressed. You just can't overdo that. With increased and expanded infrastructure, the potential for economic expansion increases dramatically. Increasing the tax base eliminates the need also for increasing the tax rate. Objective 2 was the next one that I chose, which was retain and grow existing businesses. The city must learn to appreciate the value and the contribution of all businesses and be committed to fostering a climate conducive to growth and expansion. Again, the goal must be to expand the tax base. The third one that I picked was Objective 6. Objective 6 was strive for a balanced approach to economic development that considers the fiscal impacts of growth. City government has to be committed to the support of responsible, appropriate growth and development and must take an active role in the education of the community as to the benefits and sometimes the potential concerns that can be mitigated by responsible planning. This is where code and ordinance creation can set the parameters for responsible economic growth. Annexation, I believe, must also be explored, but we have to be sure that we can demonstrate a benefit to the areas that we want to annex.
In what way would you build trust between the city council and those who elected them, between council and WVU, between the developers and council, between the State Division of Highways and council, between trucking companies and council, between community services, including the fire and police, and the community and the university?
Okay, as I answer these, I'm going to go ahead and back and reference each one so I keep them all together. So the first one was to build trust between the city council and those who elected him. The word transparency has become synonymous in government with a game of semantics and deception. I think that that's a pity. The only way to really build trust is accountability, both personally and as a body. The second one, between council and WVU. Morgantown, I believe, has lost the respect of WVU because of weak and ineffective leadership. Trust follows respect, and respect has to be earned. Council will never earn respect until it acts with economic focus and determination. No one respects weakness, and especially economic weakness. And as a weak partner, we will be forever following WVU instead of taking initiative. The third one, between developers and council. Council needs to adopt realistic code and ordinances, many of which already exist in the strategic and comprehensive plans, and stand by them instead of trying to change the rules midstream. We should have a predictable process for development so that developers will know that our word means something and that the process is clear and unambiguous. The next one is between the State Division of Highways and Council. And this one I'm going to choose to answer with the next one, which I believe was between the trucking companies also in Council. So these are going to be very, very similar. State law is state law. The present Council has ignored the fact that there is a procedure for changing that law if they wish to do so. The current Council never intended to pursue a solution to the recent truck issue, and their arrogance has all but destroyed our relationship with both the DOH as well as private trucking. Until we completely change city leadership and demonstrate that we are capable of working toward real solutions, the DOH could make us pay for the arrogance of the past for years to come. The last one, I believe it's the last one, is between the community services, which is fire and police, and the community and university. We are the city. WVU lives in our city just as we do. Fire fees, I believe, should be based on risk and therefore somewhat reformed. The city should be run like a business by people that understand real-world business strategies. We only need to look as far as the current budget crisis in Morgantown to see where inexperience and lack of vision has taken us. Community services cost money that is largely generated by B&O taxes. So if we have a poor economy, we end up with weak services. Entities that require services but don't pay B&O should be assessed to offset the expense to the city. I think that that's something that we've ignored and probably should be exploring.
Okay. The Chamber is obviously interested in a vibrant downtown. What ways do you believe the downtown can move forward to further enhance business development while becoming the welcoming point of our community to attract people to shop, dine, and engage the arts community?
Well, several years ago, a study was completed by an industry leader in entertainment district consulting. The study was rolled into both the current strategic and comprehensive plans. The problem is virtually none of the findings were ever implemented. The future of our downtown is a dining, entertainment, and boutique shopping district. We cannot and will not in any foreseeable future be positioned to compete with all the town centers and malls. Malls are pretty much going away now, but the town centers are a big thing, as major retail destinations. We don't have the square footage or the property inventory, but we do have the market downtown. We need to embrace national businesses that show interest and leverage their drawing power to allow smaller, local businesses to benefit from their traffic. We do have challenges though. Our downtown's too dark. Our streetscaping is unkept and neglected, even though it's virtually brand new. The street sweeper that used to be run nightly is rarely seen, and when it is, it just blows the dirt around in the street. And this is the first impression that we give to our visitors. This city has adopted an attitude that having a vibrant entertainment district is frightening. As a result, they do little to support it, and even less to defend it when it comes needlessly under attack. That's unfortunate and further undermines the tax base. Our fire and police agree that the safest places for our students are in those very venues. All of this is an indicator of poor and ineffective leadership, I believe.
What specific skills do you bring from your private sector job that you believe would be beneficial for a member of council, particularly as it relates to small business interests in your community?
Well, my background is in small family business, basically. I understand how difficult it is to grow a client base and how fragile that client base can be. Competition is one thing, but when the city either works against business or creates a hostile environment for business growth, success is pretty much impossible. No council members currently have a strong business background. If they do, they're certainly not demonstrating it. I've been president of Main Street Morgantown for 4 years. I know what it is to interact with small businesses and to try to get them through the maze of issues to start a business here in the city. Our current procedures seem to create obstacles instead of assistance. This is fixable. But as hard as just an example, as hard as Main Street Morgantown leadership, that would have been our director at the time and me, both of us were very involved in this particular project. As hard as we worked with the Morgantown Marketplace project, the city even threw up barriers to that project, and that was their own.
Morgantown was recently granted home rule status. How would you utilize the powers of home rule to improve our community? In particular, would you use the taxing power? And if so, what would you use the funding to address?
I think home rule is a good concept, certainly. But depending on who you give that power to, it can either be used as a tool or a weapon. Our downtown business district is the traditional hub of the community. We're all the envy of pretty much virtually every city in the state, yet we really don't recognize how fortunate that we are here. Our goal should never be raising taxes if we can avoid it. Our true goal should be building businesses that pay taxes. So again, it's about building a business base, getting more people paying taxes, not about raising the taxes for the people that are there. In many discussions of home rule, much of the focus is always placed on what can be restricted with the power instead of what restrictions can be lifted with that power. I think that this is wrong. I think that it's a bad approach. I would use every vehicle available through home rule to expand the possibilities of business development within the area business centers, including the downtown. But of course, the downtown is not the entire business center. You've got Suncrest, parts of Suncrest that are in the city. You've got Saberton. So there's other places besides the downtown. I would explore annexation. I would not pursue the implementation of a sales tax. I believe that in this case, the sales tax option is a penalty imposed by a council on businesses and community to make up for their inability to provide a welcoming business environment within this city. Perception is reality, and the customer base surrounding Morgantown has too many options to add the perception that we are less competitive because of a higher tax rate.